Okay, so there are two classes that run the one after the other. This one is HR Bio specific, the other one is a writing circle for honor students. Okay. All right, so I am going to hit the ground running. Just again, I'm Dr. Karen Stander. I teach HR Bio 83. Um, We will today be covering a few aspects relating to the theory behind the module. Also start giving you some guidelines on how you may and you may not collect data. For the meantime, you're welcome to type any questions in the chat. I will be addressing them at the end of tonight's class. Great. All right. Right. Just waiting for my Unisa to start. There is recordings that are all uploaded on YouTube. You can find the link in Tutorial Letter 101. Okay, let me share my screen. There we go. Just have both open. Okay. Okay. So when okay, so before we start officially with the module content itself, it's important that you guys try and work through at least the lessons before you come to class. You also know kind of what we are going to do. So if you have any specific questions that you know which ones to ask. So if you go to the foundations of research, this is something that you're probably going to be used to after completing HM's IT. So it's important that research students understand research terms. Um, often in research, we use academic jargon and we expect students to kind of follow along. So it's important that you guys are able to follow along and speak and understand the language a little bit better. If you do struggle with the language, that's where large language models are quite effective. You can ask large language models to explain something, whether it's in Afrikaans, isiZulu, Xhosa, French, German, any language that you do understand a little bit better. You could ask a large language model to just help you understand the concept in a language that you do find easier. So like I said in the first round, we don't necessarily have a prescribed textbook for this module. We've got some books that we recommend, but I've tried to, as far as possible, give you some internet and free, what's called open educational resources. So for you to understand the language of research, there is a textbook. If you open the learning lesson one, you will see if you click on the knowledge base here, it will then open a research textbook. These I've got all the terms and the explanation on specific research related concepts that, in my opinion, would be sufficient for honors level research. Okay. This is quite a nice book. It shows you how to knowledge. It's completely free. So, it's a nice textbook to use. Okay, so but we are going to assume in HR Bias because we're busy with the research project that you have already read and that you understand the research terminology. So you did that basic assignment to also help you understand the theoretical components that underpin the module. So we looked at what the systematic literature review is because you're going to do something similar. We also looked at how to conduct research ethically, and all of this helped you to understand the specific words that will come out through the process. And you're welcome to, if you do not understand something, just pop the word in the chat, and we'll get back to it at the end of today's lesson. So, for those of you who missed the message, because I see you guys quite busy on the WhatsApp group, we don't wait. It took a while for registrations to close. We're end of April, and we've got a lot to do. Okay, so I want to start at the beginning. I was working through so that I know where to start. So the one thing also that you need to just know that I use Notebook LLM to upload a few papers on human-centered design. If you want to access it, it will come ask permission from my side to share it. So my Gmail address is drkarenstander@gmail.com. So it will then grant you permission from that email address because you can't use the UNISA one. And we need to play the game in a world that is changing quite quickly. So when we say human-centered research design, so earlier in the year we spoke in the first brown bag about why we do research. We do research to solve a problem. And it's actually a few funny what do you call these cartoons that I got in one of the references that I sent you to. And it kind of speaks to why we like this. So if you look at the first one, you know, to sit behind the desk and say, okay, I can push this product to the market, but I am not one of the people in that market. So I look at the first one. You have the old man sitting there, and he says he's sure that teenage girls would love this new product. Well, great. I wonder if he even has a teenage girl. So, how do we make sense of where we are going? And in any business, we can't just say, and especially in today's fast moving age, we can't just push products onto the market and expect to say, okay, because we are pushing it and because it's there, people have to buy it. People don't have to buy things. They've got so many alternatives. They can import from China, from America. Well, it's a bit expensive from America at the moment, but they can. The internet has opened the world of things to us. So we need to make sure that when we do things in a business sense, and remember you're students of business, and this is very important when you start doing your research. Don't get fall in a trap. I had to send a few students back to the drawing board last year to go outside the realm of business, right? Your students in the College of Economic and Management Science, you can't do medical research. Okay. So if we then get back to doing of what you are going to do, it's important to understand that it does take some time. So the next assignment, in that while you only have a few assignments, they are quite big. And if you remember in honors week, the Sean and Alton would have told you they had assignments due every week. We changed that system. But we didn't change the assignments. So we grouped the assignments into one. So you will have to, from your side as groups, sit together and complete a section of an assignment every week. Now, if we look at the next assignment, and I just want to make this very clear, and I will say it here, and I will put the announcement up, and I'll put it on the WhatsApp group. Sending a survey out to someone and doing an interview is not the same thing. Okay, an interview allows you to probe a little bit deeper, to understand the meaning, to get rich data. A survey that you email is supposed to gather quantitative data. So you need a lot more and you can't understand things. The idea here in this module is so that you speak to people so that you understand them, right? And now we also need to speak to the right people. I want to go with this one. If we speak tell our business idea to our parents, they'll always say it's a good thing, right? So it's obviously not the right person. We need to understand who our target market is before we kind of start there. But we don't want to preempt this process. And this is why we are going to use something called grounded theory or then human centered design, depending on how you look at it. Um, to do the research on HR Pass 83. I'm going to just try and open it a little bit so you can see my screen a bit better. Okay, so now if you look at human-centered design, human-centered design is about solving a problem that people actually has. So we don't design a project or a product and then hope people buy it. We see for a gap, we look for a gap by speaking to people or talking to humans, and then we design something to fill that gap. Right? In academic world, that is then called grounded theory research. So we first start doing interviews and then we can go to the literature afterwards. Okay, so we need to then sit back and observe real situations. We have to engage, meaning we speak to real people, and we have to identify patterns in what they do. So, patterns is the essence of all research, whether or not it is qualitative or quantitative. Patterns is where research comes from. Even if you go into astrophysics, you look for patterns in the way stars die. You look for patterns in the way radio frequencies go. You look for patterns in say in sport or marketing or what in the way that the ball moves or is spin. You look at in patterns of injuries. Like for example, my kids play rugby, so um, one of the things that they are both are forward. So one of the things that they often have to do, the one gets picked up in a lineup and the other one picks up in a lineup. Is they have to stick these pieces of, I don't know what to call it, hose pipe or what, onto their legs so that they can be picked up in a lineup. Right? The Rhino, the new sponsor of the Springboks, just launched a kind of pants that you wear that has these pieces in. Now, why would it have been a problem to stick these things? I don't know if you've ever sticked elastoplast, that white tape on your legs with hair and then have to pull it off. It's quite painful. And if you are a kid, it's 10 times more painful. So they saw a problem. Right? They don't just go and invent something, but there's a few other aspects that you have to think of. And this is what we are going to do in this module, is we are going to start by identifying some sort of problem and then look for patterns in the problem. And then based on these patterns, we are going to identify some solution. And then we're going to go to the theory to support our solution. Okay. So we are going to do it a bit upside down. And the specific reasoning behind it is twofold. This is something that's very difficult for AI to do. So it kind of forces your hand or the hand of somebody that would have wanted to use AI to do it. And then on the other hand, this is how research works when you are in an organization. Okay, so what we are doing is we are going to look, because we are business students, and I don't know if you know who Michael Porter is. He said the business of business is business. So even if we are solving problems and saving the world, we need to find a problem that's worth solving and a solution that's worth studying. So we want to, in the end, as business students, we want to make money. This is why we study business. We understand how people make money, where did they make money, and we need to understand the process of making money. And this is what we are going to kind of do. All right. So this resource, it's part of your textbooks, or let's say your textbook combination, talking to humans. So you would see in the assignments, I also speak to talking to humans. You can click on books and resources. Wait for it to load. Then you don't have to buy the book. You can just go and get a free digital copy because you are a school or a university. Okay. There's some assumption exercises, there's do's and don'ts, and this is a very important book so that you can understand. We will be doing some testing at the end, but for now, you need to understand. Oh, I changed the book. You need to understand that we let's just move this thingy away. Okay, that we are going to talk to humans. And I'm going to say this again, and I'm going to say this for the last time. You have to speak to people. You will not be sending out surveys. If you send out a survey, even with open-ended questions, you don't get rich data. We need rich data so we don't end up making a mistake in our business or in our grounded foundation of what we are going to study. All right, so there's not going to be any right answer in this module. There's nothing right. We are going to give you marks for the process that you are going to go through, because it is in the process of going through this that you will actually learn something. If you don't go through this whole process, you are not going to learn what what you wanted, and you're also not going to learn what I wanted you to learn. Okay. So if I just stop there for a moment, I just want to make sure that I don't leave you too for check my order settings. Okay, can you hear me? Can you supposed to be able to react? Okay. All right. Perfect. Great. Okay, let's go back to sharing my screen. Okay, I am sharing on two screens, so you might think that I'm looking away, but I'm not. Okay. So in this module, there's not going to be any right or wrong answer. I want to see that you go through the process. Now, if you just go back to the academic integrity course that you did, as well as to all the declarations that you are doing for this module, you will realize that one of the things that UNISA and also UNISA's AI policy, UNISA is not shying away from teaching you how to use AI, and you also see that I do give you a lot of AI tools to use. However, and it's important, there's two warnings that for tonight, and then we'll stop. Never use AI to fake your interview transcripts. If you are caught, you are expelled from UNISA. You're expelled from UNISA, you will not be able to study at any tertiary or higher education institute in South Africa for the next 10 years. It's a very serious crime. Okay. I did have two groups now that had done that. Just go do the interviews that you have to do. And I know it's a lot, but there's a specific reason for it. You are in groups of I think between 4 and 7 in a group. So the group, it's per person in the group. It has to be more in total for the groups where there are more students. Okay. All right. So if we go then we go back to this lesson of tonight. Okay. Talking to humans is an important resource. So make sure that you understand how do you speak to people? Why do we speak to people? And how do we put humans at the center of our design? So there's two aspects. So this is the Notebook LLM. Notebook LLM is also going to help you later on to write a little bit of your research. I have talking to humans in here. I've got testing to humans. I've also added some additional references in. Once you click on it, it will send a request through to me. So it does help you to work through this quite easily. So if you think of design thinking and active learning, when we engage people and we speak to people, we are engaging in a process called active learning. So we are speaking to people, we are learning out of the actions that we are taking. Right? If we sit and we read the document, that's not active learning, that's more passive learning. So in this, when we want to create, remember the artifact that we are going towards now is to create some or other product that we can sell. But that product must solve a problem. It must be a problem that people are experiencing. And the only way that you understand what the problem is that people are experiencing is to speak to them. Okay, so this is a nice little tool that you can use to help you and understand specifically what human-centered design is, how it speaks to. You can click on the articles to talking to humans. It does give you kind of a summary of this. So this is a very nice AI tool. You are also submitting stuff out of your own that you are creating. But this one is specifically kind of, let's call it a combined textbook on human-centered design. So if there is something more or deeper that you need to understand on it, then you click through and um, it will guide you through it. But for overall, understand that human-centered design is based on first understanding what the problem is. And I always tell students, remember, this investigation that you are doing into understanding what the problem is. And you have to write a problem statement. Do not write that the problem is the investigation, because the investigation into a problem cannot be the problem itself. I always use a murder analogy. Some students like it, others don't. But if a murder happens, if I'm writing a novel on a murder, right, the problem that that novel solves is a murder. If the murder didn't happen, right, we can't investigate it. The purpose of our murder novel is to investigate it. So that's the purpose. And then the steps that we take to do it, or the object, or the questions that we need. So who committed where, Dr. Mustard in the scullery with a knife or whatever. Those questions that we need to answer, those are the research questions or then the research objectives, um, depending on how you frame them. Okay, so remember that when we get there. But for tonight, remember that we first need to speak to people who found out what the problem is. We don't speak to people, we don't know what their problem is. Okay, so to get back, this is then the design thinking. Okay, and there's also some videos. Okay, so human-centered design leads us then to the academic research type called grounded theory. If we then go through to grounded theory, let me just admit. Okay, it's actually quite simple to understand, and it's very similar to what you are doing. And so grounded theory is basically looking at something, gathering data before I read more about it. That's what you are doing. You're just using this human-centered design process because we are coming from it from what is the problem that we see. And then we're going to take that problem, and that problem that we see is going to become our research topic. So we look at the problem, we see, we look, we speak, we engage, we observe, and we identify a problem, and then we go further. Grounded theory, human-centered designs. Okay. But this is an iterative process. So if you look at the assignment that you have to do, you need to go and say, okay, I speak to 5 people. Now I come back as a group. We all spoke to 5 people. What is the problem that you saw, or I saw, or Puti saw, or Kagiso saw? And then we pull these problems together to say, okay, we said that we are, and we will get there just now on how do you start this. If we said, okay, let us look at, I did the exercise the other day with my boys. If we say, okay, let's take the tight 5 in the rugby. I don't know if rugby is the best example, but in any case, the tight 5 in the rugby, there's the front rugby pack. So number 1 to 5. What makes them different to other people? And I observed the problem with my kids that I don't know if it's a problem with other kids, but the front row is normally your bigger guys. No, and if I look at my son, he's 14. The school clothes are already the bigger size at school is already not fitting him. So the clothes is designed not for the tight 5 of the front, those 5 players. So all these fancy rugby bums things that all the other kids wear, these kids struggle to get because they don't get their sizes. So we're starting to observe a problem. But that's my problem that I observe. Now, as a team, if we say, okay, let's go speak to people, and ethics thing, you all did the ethics course. Can you go speak to 14-year-olds? I want to see in the chat, yes, no, I don't know. No. So you cannot go speak to 14-year-olds. Thank you. I'm so glad you all know that. Um, so you can't go speak to 14-year-olds. Can I go? No, not over 18 either. Um, I think it's actually 21. Remember, if you look at the Child Act, you are only an adult when you turn 21. So 21. And then can I go speak another one to the grandparents of those kids? So can I go speak to my father who is 80? No. Okay. All right. So the cutoff age is 65. So 21 to 65. So I can go speak to the parents of those kids, right? So can I go speak to the parents of those kids if the parents of those kids don't have grade 7? Oh, you can't. Why not? Because they are considered to be a vulnerable group. Okay. So if I want to know if other parents experience a similar problem, I can go to speak to parents that experience a problem. So in your group, you are now 5 or 4 or 6, how many ever you are, in your specific group, people with a different background from different places. What problems do you experience? So for me, this is something I experienced, and I really feel for these kids who want to wear rugby bum shorts, but you can't get a size for them. And if you get a size for them, it's so tight that the moment they go into a scrum, the pop is there, right? So it's ridiculous. Also, if you look at or they run up too high, it's a real um rugby struggle for me. But anyway, so now in my group of 5, my first kind of interview that I do is in between each other. Let us think and speak about the problems that we are experiencing as a group. What do we see? Is it that we are experiencing that the water isn't really drinkable in the town? Or is it that we are experiencing, I don't know, school shoes are too expensive? Or I don't know, anything really. So last year we had a few interesting things come out of these discussions that the groups have had. I forced them a little bit into specific fields. I'm going to leave it open. If you are really struggling, I do kind of think, and I'll give you a few tips or some fields that I think you can think of, where I think there's quite some problems that haven't been solved or some resources that haven't been used. And I give them verbatim. So one of the first things that I do think you need to think of is if we think of what we are observing around us, we often forget that darkness is also actually an asset. So I don't know if you know, but if you sleep in a too light room, you don't actually rest. So we do have in the big cities, we have a lot of light pollution, and that actually causes that the kids don't get, well, even adults don't get enough melatonin, so you don't sleep well enough. So as a result of this light pollution problem, you now get international dark sky reserves. So that's like a nature reserve, but of darkness. So if we look at this international dark sky reserve, which Gauteng will definitely not get, these are more for rural areas. Okay. Now, first of all, you need to understand if this is a problem that other people are experiencing. I can't sleep with the light on. maybe you can and maybe you don't experience it, but let's say it's something that you are experiencing. So now let's go speak to other people and find out if this is the problem that they have and how are they solving this sleep problem and what kind of is coming out of it. And if you go through this process, you could end up by thinking, okay, maybe I can use this international dark sky reserve, and I'm from a rural area. And if people already experience this, let's sell them darkness. Let's sell them a week in a rural area, in a place to sleep where it's dark, so that they can rest out somewhere. And then you start entering astrotourism. When it's dark, you see the night sky better. So in this week, we put up a long table there in the mountains and we get all the community members to make their favorite dish for our guests that's going to come and sleep here. And we get somebody to show them the stars and we make money out of it. I don't know. Maybe that's a way to make money. Maybe it's a way to make money to say, okay, let's make a clothing range specifically for the type 5. What do they need that's different? And if we extend it a little bit to include all the forwards, we also then need something like Rhino has to lift up the props. I don't know if that pants that they developed is going to stay there once they lift up all these heavy guys. I haven't tried it yet. And if the elastoplast is not the only way to do it, I'm sure there's another way to do it. The other problem that I saw, and I'm giving you a lot of case study examples so that you understand, a dog sky reserve, I'll put it up. International dog sky reserve. Okay, it's actually quite a very interesting thing for me, international dog sky reserves. But okay, let's go back. The other thing that I saw the other day, banana leaves. So, once a banana tree has had bananas, you have to cut it down because it will never have bananas again. Okay. So, what do we do with all the banana leaves? No, normally farmers just take a tractor and they go over it, put it back in the soil, and then they plant new bananas. Okay. But that's kind of a little bit of a waste because there's two things that I think that you can do with banana leaves. Um, and if I was a farmer, this wasting of something that takes a lot of resources to grow into, have you ever stood next to a banana tree? It's quite big, right? So it's a big thing that took a lot of money and water and compost and everything to grow for these little bit of bananas. Okay, so as a farmer, I would stand there and have a problem. So what do I do with it? So if you now look a little bit further, there's two things that they are currently doing with banana leaves that we aren't really doing too much of in South Africa. So the first thing that they are doing, they're actually wrapping fresh produce in banana leaves. So and I do have a pet peeve with this. Why do we take mealies with their leaves on and put them in a polyester, take the leaves off so the people can see the bits, put them in a polystyrene, single-use plastic, wrap them in cling wrap and put the sticker on. Why? Can't we just buy mealies with their leaves on and then we take them off again? I don't know. For me, that is a bit of a problem. The other one is why can't we just use banana leaves to wrap things in? And then what they have actually been doing in Indonesia, and even in parts of the US, They take the banana leaves, they develop fibers out of it, can actually make clothes, they make car bumpers, they make seats at the back of the car because their farmers had the problem of too many banana leaves. So you need to start seeing the problem. And we use then human centered design and grounded theory as our theoretical underpinnings for everything that we are going to do in this module. Okay, so you can use something called consensus AI. Consensus, and I really hope that my searches aren't finished, but let's see. Look there. That's super cool. One of the African states actually used banana leaves to make wigs from the fiber. There's so much to do just because the farmer had the problem with too many banana leaves. So you need to go speak to people and start thinking out of the box. What did you read? What did you see? Okay. So if we then go on the banana bandwagon tonight and we say, what can we do with leaves? Okay. Okay. Consensus is a small little AI. There's another one I'll show you just now through UNISA library that actually searches all the open source articles, right? So open source articles is when I publish an article and I say, okay, please make it open source, meaning that you can download the PDF without paying for it. You pay a little bit more for it, but that's okay. Let's see if my searches are all finished now. So what consensus does, it actually goes through all these articles and it gives you different things that you can do. It actually gives you the articles that it used to answer you, right? Now, if you look at this, you need so there's two things that AI does, and this is not generative AI. This is a little bit of a LLM, so it does give you a summary of all the articles that it finds, but you need to go read the articles as well, so you at least know, if the summary is correct. Okay. But they say you can use textile clothing crafts, your paper bags, and bioplastics. They use it in automotive transport, construction isolation, and general composites. Okay, it's a it can also be a water purifier and a natural solvent. It's bioremediation and recycling. So it's a lot of things that you can do with banana leaves. I don't know. We can ask it if it is Bob, I. Oh, no, not this. See, what is this? So consensus was it, at the beginning it was developed to actually say yes or no. They say okay. What did I say? They have actually made false eyelashes from banana leaves. So there you have it. Consensus will give you a academic background and everything that is there is actually a paper. And if you click on it, it gives you the paper. And click on the DOI and it will open it. And you have it, and you can download the PDF. So this is a way, yes, this is a way to download articles quickly. You can also link Consensus AI with Claude or Consensus with Claude. Then Claude will only, they've got a whole tutorial on that. Claude will only use Consensus data. The other way that you have as UNISA students, and this is a very big advantage as UNISA students, is if you go to UNISA library, you go to find e-resources, you go here to W, go to Web of, and I don't want to go to that one, I want to go to this one. It will ask you to log in. So you can use the smart search, which is a all kind of the way of searching, but you can also go to the research assistant. And in this, we can also ask the same question, right? Can you make wigs from banana leaves? Let's ask. So Web of Science is all the behind the firewall articles that Consensus can't. Quick Alpha research goal, and it specifically on natural fiber wigs. Okay, I want to look. It's a lion copy. Okay, so let's see what did I come up with. Okay, cottons, okay, banana leaf, weak materials, okay. Would you like yes? Okay, proceed. So now this one takes a little bit longer, and this one will only give you research that is available on the Web of Science. So what is quite interesting, so it will give you a whole summary. But okay, let's see. Appointments. Okay, so as I say, it could be possible, but we need some more research. So now this becomes an interesting thing. If we could then use banana leaves, if we could get somebody that can help us refine this process, we could possibly do what you said, right? Is to make wigs from banana leaves. I think that might be an interesting problem that is worth solving. And the solution worth selling. I don't know. What do you think? Thumbs up or not? And this comes only from having a conversation, and I didn't even open the chat with you. And that's my whole point that I wanted to say. Okay. Human-centered design lead and grounded theory leads us to understanding a topic. But because, and I wanted to see that I used some of the comments that was in here, right? We started with consensus. We had the first question, right? Then we went to say, okay, if we then use, if we say, okay, we have this problem of too many banana leaves, if we then go and say, okay, if we use it, we agree on it, but what about weeks, right? It's also a problem that is there that needs solving. Could we combine the two? So then we go back to the literature, and this is called the iterative process. We go speak a little bit more, we come see what did we find, what does consensus say, what does the literature say, and then we go and we speak a little bit more. And this is basically what you are going to do for your first assignment. You are not allowed to send any survey out to anyone. Remember, also just back to that point, I did get ethical clearance for you guys to go speak to people about problems that they are experiencing. I have a set of questions that you can use to kind of start your conversations on, but we have ethical clearance for open-ended, so you can probe and you can work a little bit deeper. So start with each other, but go out a little bit further to see, okay, if this is the problem. But it's important, guys, that in your first meeting you say, okay, let's think about, are we going to look at darkness or sleep? Are we going to look at rugby? Are we going to look at banana leaves? The other one that they also use is the corn stalks or the corn mealie rester. I always forget the English term. So when you plant corn and you take the corn off, all those corn that's there, they sometimes do use it and they bale it for cows, but not always. Okay. So the questions are already on the site. We'll get to them now. Okay, here's a learning activity that you can go through to help you understand what is grounded theory. Okay, then we go through. So let's pop that there. I'll show you where you get them. The corn cobs, a mealie cobs is the actual mealie that you eat. The part that's left behind afterwards. I had the word earlier today. I'll look it up now. Okay, so now, there's a reason that I add the SDGs in here. So if we look at where we are today, and if you open the website, you will see a countdown timer showing that we don't have so much time left to reach the SDGs, and we're actually quickly going towards Agenda 2063. So if we really want to work towards the Africa that we want, and the Africa that we want for our kids, and even a society that we want for our kids, we need to start taking action. So if we then look at the banana leaves and the rugby and everything that we have spoken about till tonight, um, how does it link up to us leaving the world a little bit in a better place, right? Okay. So we do that by explicitly linking them to the Sustainable Development Goals. So if we look at our problems, we put them here that we had earlier, and we were speaking about the banana leaves, for example, and the corn cobs. We're actually speaking to responsible consumption and production, right? If we look, for example, at the astrotourism example that we used, we looked at the decent work, even the reduced inequalities, because if we are able to turn darkness or the absence then of technology and lights into an asset for the rural community, then we reduce the inequality because we bring the money to something that they didn't have. We also create a economic growth, but we need to watch out, especially when it comes to dark sky reserves, that the increased economic activity doesn't hinder the light quality. Okay. All right. I am going to stop here just for a moment. I see there is a student. Where he's where he's okay. I see there's a student that was struggling to get in. Okay. If you don't know where we are at the moment, the recording I will make available as soon as as soon as it's renders, probably during the course of tomorrow. So you will have to go have a look. Okay. Um. So now we have a problem. If we take any of these, we have a problem with too many banana leaves. We can say it fits with the SDG, and we know we're going to try and sort out this thing, right? Something that we want to do with the banana leaves, or even the corn rests, right? To develop something for the rural communities that they can do with that. Um, I don't know if it is to create wigs or if it is to create just the fibers, clean it, whatever it is that you think you can do. But we need to go speak to people to make sure what do we want to make sure of, what the problem is. So the problem, if there's problem there, we never sell and we're never going to go speak to people and tell them what we plan to do. We always make sure that we speak to them and make sure in our interviews, is this a problem? Is this a problem? And we are going to probe a little bit deeper. So we're going to speak to 5 people, come back to each other, and then speak about what we found and go back based on what we decided now that we are going to focus in on, like we did earlier, banana leaves, now wigs. Then if we go there, okay, how long must they be, or whatever it is that comes out of these discussions, bring it back, go out again. And that's what they say in grounded theory also is it takes long because it's an iterative process. So you need to start getting together, you need to start working through this forming phase that you can start seeing what these problems are. In the end, remember this problem that we are wanting to solve, it must be something that we can make money out of. Yeah. So, in strategic management, MNG 4801, MNG 3601, and 3602, you all learn different tools. You looked at the PESTEL, should know what Porter's 5 forces is, you should know what stakeholder analysis is. And you should also know what shared value is by now. All right, so it's important for you to understand that these ideas that I've been discussing in the class came from me understanding the environment around me, right? What is going on in a political, economic, social, technological, and legal environments surrounding where we are? And that's where I saw, okay, there's a problem with the the Tide 5, there's a problem with the banana leaves, or there is a problem in rural environments. That's where you find things like the dark sky reserves, right? Then butterfly forces, if we then take it a bit closer and it says, okay, what are the things that we have to look for? But it's not banana leaves, corn. Maybe we're in Gauteng or in the Free State. What can we do maybe with um oh, what is scoring? One of the other crops, even soya bean raised. The leaves that are raised behind it, wheat, also wheat. Um, so if we're in the Free State, what do they do with the wheat after they pulled all the seeds out. We just plow it back. We throw it on a bin heap and they burn it. Is it a problem for them? Right? So there's different places, right? So these are substitutes, all it is one of the five forces, right? So banana leaves is a substitute for corn rest, for wheat rest, even soya rest. Which fibers work better? All of these are aspects that you have to consider every time you come together. Okay? Who are the people? So now that we kind of have about here at your 10th, 15th interview, you kind of would have to understand, all right, we have an idea of the problem, but who has this problem? So who are the stakeholders that are playing this game or in this game that we need to consider and go speak to confirm our problem? Not to sell, you're never ever going to go sell your product in this market, in this module. All I want to know is, do you have a problem? Right? Is there a market for your problem? And the only way that you know is by speaking to people. That's why you need to do so many interviews. Okay, so where are we now, time wise? Okay, these are all activities, and then this is shared value. Okay, so I think let's stop here. We're already in for an hour. We'll go through this again. I am going to, at this point, just quickly stop sharing, go to the controls. I am going to let you give your microphones. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, all right. So I want to go back to the questionnaire. Can you speak to family and um, friends? Yes, it's actually a good starting point, right? But mm, this one. All right. So yes, you are going to start with each other, and then you are going to actually go out a little bit more. So if you speak to friends and family and colleagues, it is fine. So we had one of the students that actually started the business. They actually went and school clothes, for example. You you can get generic school clothes online, but even here with the school of hours, you have to be at the shop at between 6:30 and 7:30 on a Monday and a Friday, otherwise you don't buy school clothes, right? And some people can't just go there. So you can't just speak to friends and family because I don't have kids with school clothes and they don't have that problem. So lead you back to that one. So you need to understand who would have this problem and then speak to people that has this problem. And that's part of the customer discovery and understanding the customer where that you go. If we then go to the next lesson about understanding the customer. And this is why I said in this module, we don't really have time. We start slow. I assume that you have had the time to read through the lessons and then we hit the ground running. Okay. So it's important that you understand, right? That, and then I will also give you, there's an informed consent form that everyone that you interview, right? Um, that you have to put in your assignment so that we see that, or not actually have to put in because it comes straight to me. So they sign a form to say that they have consented, and you need to make sure you don't interview kids because parents are going to complain about you interviewing kids. And if you do that, both of us are going to get into trouble. You are also not allowed to interview old people. If you want to understand something about kids, you speak to their parents and you make sure that their parents have at least have grade 7. Um, I only want a list of prompts. You don't have to put the answers in for proof count. I just want to see that if you are speaking to them, one of the things that you need to submit is that I know that you are speaking to Prof. Kalk, that he is helping you, that you're not going then somewhere to ChatGPT and asking him to write or it to write you a proposal. Okay. Text-based interviews, meaning that they type into a questionnaire. You need to do um, in-person speaking interviews, and you can record it and you transcribe the interviews. There's a lot of transcription hardware. Do not want you to change this into a survey because we do not have ethical clearance for that. Okay. And it's a total different purpose. So let me give you some research. If we go back to this foundations book, and let me give you some research. Design, where would it be? Research design. Let's see. Types of design. It's not the experiment. It's obviously. Mm, yeah, that's just not finding it. Not sharing in any case. Sorry. Okay. So when you do a questionnaire, the idea is to get a randomized sample that you can send a questionnaire to so that you can get data that is a um, statistically representative of your population, which you can make statistical inferences from. It is not to understand what the problem is. Okay. When you speak to people, you can probe a little bit more and you can understand what it is that people want. If they say this is what they experience, you can make sure that you understand, is this what they're really experiencing? Okay. So the problem can be identified anyway. Um, like I say, you can look into different industries, start and speaking with each other. What is it that you experience on a daily basis? That's a problem. Think about um, what you spent your last 500 Rand on, right? What was irritating? What did you want to do it different? Um, so the problem can really be from any angle. You just need to think about a problem that you can make money out of. And you have to go and confirm that problem. Okay. You want to quickly go back to my answer and see that questionnaire. Yes. Share planning. Mm. Very good done. Mm. Okay. I will just go see. Okay, I had to complete. So anyway, okay, I'll go see where the questionnaire is and upload it separately so you guys have it. So the idea, guys, is that you can go and you can do interviews so that you can identify a problem and write it up. Okay. All right. So I don't record. I'm not sure if Job does. I will write them an email if they do record the writing recordings. I didn't have a recording for last week. And the other week recordings, I'm still waiting for them to come through. Okay. All right. Then that's a wrap for tonight. I think we've had a lot of class for tonight and research. Probably a bit